TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. Egypt relays a new hostage release proposal to the Islamist Hamas in the latest of repeated attempts to find an acceptable arrangement. The European Union announces a new substantive financial package of 1.6 billion euros to the Palestinian Authority. U.S. President Donald Trump warns Iran not to drag its feet in nuclear negotiations. Egyptian officials relayed a new ceasefire proposal to the Islamist Hamas, an outline which Israel has agreed to. Per circulating reports, the new proposal calls for a 45-day ceasefire in exchange for a total of 10 living hostages within the first week and another 16 hostages who've been murdered by the Islamist Hamas that would be released on the 20th day. In exchange for the release of the hostages, Israel would release a total of 1,391 convicted terrorists from Israeli jails, from whom 110 are serving multiple life sentences. Israel does demand that all of the released hostages will not be paraded by the Islamist terror group, as was done in previous cycles, and that it receives an updated report on the well-being of the living hostages. During the course of the 45-day ceasefire, Hamas and Israel would also start to negotiate a permanent cessation of hostilities, the redeployment of IDF troops, and the disarmament of the Islamist Hamas. However, on the last point, Hamas officials have already voiced their objection, evidently believing that Israel could agree to a scenario in which Hamas maintains its military and governing capabilities after the war in the Gaza Strip comes to a halt. Meanwhile, in Israel, residents of the southern town of Sderot, which had been subject to years of rocket fire and Hamas's murderous onslaught on October 7th of 2023, are hopeful that U.S. President Donald Trump would apply pressure on both Israel and the Islamist Hamas to accept a deal that would bring all of the hostages back home.
We know that Trump did great deal in the last time getting the hostages back. Also, although I'm not a great fan of other things that he is doing, I think that in this regard he is doing very good, and we hope that something good will go out. I think that both Israel and the Palestinians need somebody from the outside that will force them to stop this war.
I'm very optimistic because unlike Biden, Trump is very determined, he knows to speak Arabic, and I think that ceasefire could be achieved only after a massive pressure and after we get back our hostages and extermination of the Hamas regime, if we can call it regime, in the Gaza Strip.
Well, I think 59 should be here in a deal, like a whole deal, and not like cuts. And we're in an odd way relying on Trump. I don't believe that I'm saying it, but we're relying on him to put pressure on our government to go and make the deal now. That's it.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke with French President Emmanuel Macron earlier today. During the course of their conversation, the Israeli Prime Minister expressed strong opposition to the establishment of a Palestinian state, saying that this would constitute a huge reward for terrorism. The Prime Minister reminded the French President that to date, no Palestinian official, including in the Palestinian Authority, has condemned the October 7th massacre, and that the Palestinian Authority educates its children to destroy Israel and distributes financial rewards to murderers of Jews. The Prime Minister further told the French President that a Palestinian state established minutes away from Israeli cities would be a stronghold of Iranian terrorism, and that a vast majority of the Israeli public is resolutely opposed to it, and this is also Jerusalem's consistent and long-standing policy. It is important to explain that the phone conversation between Netanyahu and Macron follows the French leader's voiced intent to recognize a Palestinian state as early as June, and after President Macron held a separate phone conversation with Palestinian Authority Chairman Mahmoud Abbas, during the course of which Macron also stressed the need to conduct reform of Palestinian Authority that aims to stem out deep-rooted corruption within the Palestinian institution. Turning to Luxembourg, where the European institution held a first-of-its-kind high-level political dialogue with the Palestinian Authority, during the course of which it announced a substantive increase of financial support for the Palestinian leadership.
Today, the EU announced a new multi-annual support package for Palestine worth of 1.6 billion euro over the next 2 years. But Commissioner Sucha will elaborate on that. The European Union will invest in essential infrastructure, deliver humanitarian aid, and support refugees.
EU Commissioner for the Mediterranean, Dubravka Suica, claimed that the new package of European taxpayer funds aims to build a sustainable future for the Palestinians.
So our program aims to support the Palestinian people in building a sustainable future. It's about governing capacity. It's about advanced economic recovery. It's about strengthening the resilience of the private sector. Of course, it's about creating jobs and contributing to long-term social and economic stability. A well-functioning and reformed Palestinian Authority must play a central role in the post-conflict governance of Gaza. This is our position.
Palestinian Authority Prime Minister Mohammed Mustafa, for his part, stressed Ramallah's aspiration to build a strategic partnership with the European Union.
Today's first ever high-level dialogue is more than a meeting. It's a moment of decision. We came here not only to reaffirm our commitment to peace and reform, but to build a strategic partnership with the EU within the framework of the new Pact for the Mediterranean, and to advance the EU recovery program with the Palestinian Authority and to build a common pathway forward for peace.
Turning to Washington, where U.S. President Donald Trump, sitting next to visiting El Salvadorian President Nayib Bukele, addressed the latest round of nuclear negotiations with Iran, stressing his feeling that the Islamic Republic is in fact dragging its feet.
Well, they have to solve their problem very quickly. Iran wants to deal with us, but they don't know how. They really don't know how. We had a meeting with them on Saturday. We have another meeting scheduled next Saturday. I said, that's a long time. You know, that's a long time. So I think they might be tapping us along. But Iran has to get rid of the concept of a nuclear weapon. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. He can't have a nuclear weapon. Nobody can have. We can't have anybody having nuclear weapons. You know, we can't have nuclear weapons. And I think they're tapping us along because we're so used to dealing with stupid people in this country.
President Trump further repeatedly stressed that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons, while also underscoring that the Ayatollah regime must negotiate fast or face the consequences.
They were stone cold broke when I was president, and I don't want to do that. I want them to be a rich, great nation. The only thing is, one thing, simple, it's really simple, they can't have a nuclear weapon. And they got to go fast, because they're fairly close to having one. And they're not going to have one. And if we have to do something very harsh, we'll do it. And I'm not doing it for us, I'm doing it for the world. And these are radicalized people, and they cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Does that include a potential strike on Iranian nuclear facilities?
Of course it does.
In response to the president's remarks, Iran's foreign ministry stressed that it would continue to hold indirect talks with the United States, seemingly keen on dragging their feet to the limits of President Donald Trump's patience.
If we want negotiations to be effective, if we are serious about diplomatic engagement, we must naturally choose an approach that we are confident will be effective. Direct negotiations, under conditions where one side insists on a domineering approach, using the language of threats and resorting to force, are neither useful nor acceptable for a party like the Islamic Republic of Iran, nor are they likely to yield results.
Ahead of the next round of talks, which are scheduled to take place in Rome on Saturday, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi is scheduled to travel to Moscow to coordinate Tehran's approach vis-à-vis its nuclear negotiations with Washington.
I believe this week, although I should note that what I'm mentioning is a pre-planned trip, Dr. Araghchi will travel to Moscow toward the end of this week. I emphasize that this was a pre-scheduled trip, but naturally, the opportunity will be used to discuss the latest developments related to the Muscat talks.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to once again wish you Chag Pesach Sameach and a blessed Easter, and thank all of our TV7 family of supporters. TV7 Israel is a donation-based ministry with all of our programs made possible by the generosity of our viewers. Therefore, if you're blessed by the content of our productions, please consider becoming a monthly TV7 Israel supporter. You can donate via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Essen, wishing you an Erev Mevorach, and God willing, we'll see you during our next update. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.